and I'm the author of the Ernie Gonzalez series. So if you've been following, you'll know that we've been working through this book each week. So well done for staying with me and joining me every week. And, you know, you can catch up on other YouTube videos, and then you can follow live each week. So I just want to say hi to a few people who I know are faithfully watching each week. I don't know if Josh and Zara, they're my neighbours. I can hear them in the garden. So, but if you are watching, so hi, Josh and Zara. And hi to Amaya, I know is watching later today. And also to Ben and Amy, who are still watching. And anyone else who I've forgotten to mention. Jinhan, also, hi, Jinhan. I'll see you later for our lesson. So, yeah, so welcome. And so let's have a little recap of what has been happening in case this is the first time for you joining me. So Ernie Gonzalez, the brave, determined Spanish snail who has a big dream of finding a paradise snail garden. So a snail garden that he would love to live in, that has everything that snails like, because he lives in a dusty old plant pot by the side of the road with 1,000 different other snails in his family, because he has a huge family, and he is squashed and cramped. So he goes off to find this place that no one believes exists except for Ernie, because Ernie is super brave. So, like you guys. So what has happened? So Ernie has gone off in search of his dreams, and he has found himself as a pet in someone's kitchen and not where he had planned to be. Then he decides to escape. And if you remember a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of sessions ago, Ernie discovered a really sinister discovery, that snails would be the empty snail shells behind the fridge, which suggested that snails were being eaten, which made him realize his lovely, comfy life as a pet snail was not all it was set out to be. So there's the snail shells, and he landed crash on them and realized they were all empty. Poor Ernie. So Ernie decided to escape. Awesome Ernie, because he's so determined. He doesn't let a challenge get in his way of reaching his dreams. So he sets off, despite the annoying Captain Pablo, who ridicules him and says he can't do it, you can't do it. But Ernie does it anyway, because he is awesome, like you guys. Then he meets another snail, Bruce, the Aussie snail. And finally, he's so relieved to have found himself a friend. And they get to know each other, chat about how they got to the compost heap, and look at the stars as you do, and become friends. And it's great because Ernie now has a buddy. So Ernie has asked Bruce to go with him. And we ended the chapter last Thursday with Bruce thinking about it. Ernie asking him if he'll come with him, but Bruce not really convinced that this place actually exists. Let's find out. So first of all, before I do the book reading, I want to do my activity tips beforehand. So I want you in this chapter to listen for sentence openers. I'm sure your teachers often talk about sentence openers a lot. Okay, so how you open your sentence is interesting. It can make the story sound exciting or sound a little bit boring. So it's so easy to open the sentence with the or he, okay, or they. But I want to challenge you to open your sentence with different words sometimes. Doesn't have to be all the time. It is okay to open your sentences with the and he, that is fine. Or the character's name, Bruce went off, Ernie went off. Okay, that's fine. But sometimes when we want to add a feeling of impact and excitement, and you might change your sentence to immediately Bruce rushed off. So I want you to listen as I read and listen out for those interesting sentence openers that break up the other ones that are a little bit more repetitive. So you are just varying your sentence openers. So I want you to listen out for that, because that's my tip today. Vary your sentence openers. Okay, so open your sentences with I'm sure you guys have all heard of fronted adverbials, okay, and phrases like all of a sudden, or as quick as a flash. That's a great one. I know you love that one. Without warning, okay, or just immediately, quickly, rapidly. Brilliant ones to open your sentence with. Okay, then the other thing I want you to listen out for, let me just check my notes. What did I say? So I want you to listen out for suspense. Okay, I have created a feeling of suspense in this chapter. Okay, and so listen how I've done it. I have used some senses, and that is going to be my activity. I'm going to get you guys to do an activity about creating a paragraph of suspense. So let's get going, because I can't wait to read this chapter to you. It's one of my favorite chapters. It is called Ready with Nowhere to Go. The next morning, Ernie awoke as daylight crept across his face. He stretched his long neck and wriggled his tentacles. It was going to be a good day. He could feel it. As he rolled over to get up, there standing over him was Bruce, with his cherry pip army hat sitting proudly on his small head. "G'day, Cobber. If we're going to find this olive garden of yours, then we better get moving, or half the day will be gone." Ernie couldn't believe what he was hearing. Despite Bruce's belief in Ernie's story, he had given it some thought and decided that the least he could do was help his fellow snail on his way, even if it was on the way to nowhere. Then at least he could have his compost heap to himself all again. So Bruce has decided that, you know what, actually, this Ernie's not too bad. I'll just help him to get on his way, and then I can go back to my nice, comfy life. I'm not sure that is being the best friend, but anyway, at least he is helping him to get on his way. Ernie jumped with delight. "That's the spirit," he said, looking at Bruce excitedly. "But I'm not going anywhere until you find me a hat like yours." I want a hat like that. I think it will look a bit small on my head, cherry pip. "Oh, and not until we've had breakfast. True adventurers don't go anywhere on empty stomachs," said Ernie, feeling delighted. "Yeah, sure thing, mate," replied Bruce in his strong Australian accent. Quickly, they munched on a few figs and avocados, and then Bruce rummaged through the food scraps to find his friend an army pip hat. Ernie proudly put on his new hat, swung his rucksack onto his shell, and they were ready to go. "So, where are we going?" asked Bruce. Let's have a look at Ernie in his snail pip, with his snail pip hat proudly sitting on his head, his little slimy squidgy head. There we go. "That is a very good question," answered Ernie, looking slightly puzzled. "We need to head downstream, and it should be there somewhere." Ernie didn't really have a clue how he was going to find the olive garden, let alone how they would get down the river. But he didn't want Bruce to know that. The river, which stretched out before them, appeared to branch off in two directions. Ernie's plan had originally seemed so simple: over the wall with the leftover vegetables, a leisurely slide down to the riverbank, and then a gentle sail down the river to his garden. Sounds perfect, doesn't it? But now that plan seemed silly as he looked at the river and tried to decide which way would lead them safely there. All of a sudden, they heard a rustle from the trees behind them, followed by a sniffing. "Freeze! Don't move," Bruce said, sounding panicky. Ernie held his breath. "What is it?" "Shh," replied Bruce. "We need to be quiet." The sniffing stopped. Then there were footsteps, except they weren't human footsteps. Ernie's heart began to beat fast as he realized that they were the padding steps of wild dogs. And as every snail knows only too well, wild dogs are always hungry and will eat anything they can get their paws on, including squidgy snails. "Okay, I have a plan," whispered Bruce, who had escaped from wild dogs many times before. "See that large cabbage leaf over there?" Ernie looked to where Bruce was pointing. "When I tell you, we move towards it and slide under it. Then slowly make our way down to the river with it on our heads, turn it over, jump on it, and sail downstream." Ernie was impressed. "Good plan." And he said, "Let's go." Okay, let's just have a look. I'm going to cut out that picture, although I think you've already seen it. So this is the dog. Look at his sharp teeth. Hope he's not a scary dog. Not all dogs are scary, but this one looks like he is, hey? They slid quickly across the scraps and slipped easily under the leaf. Oh, phew, said Ernie. Immediately, they began moving towards the river, making a zigzag trail as they went. So remember, they're under the cabbage leaf. It took them a while to work out how to head in the same direction, and for a while, they went round in circles. Can you imagine? It would have looked a bit like a moving cabbage leaf, a cabbage leaf that's moving on its own. I think the dog might be a bit puzzled. They were in such a panic, they didn't notice the dogs drawing nearer. Let's have a look at the next picture. I love these illustrations. Look at those big, scary, boggly eyes of the dog. Oh, looks like Captain Pablo is joined. One of them came and stood hovering over the snails, cocking his head from one side to the other. I don't know if you've seen dogs do that. Looking puzzled as he watched the cabbage leaf moving on its own. His pack had now caught up, and they were rummaging behind him, eating scraps. Almost there, whispered Bruce, as they touched the cool water of the river's edge. When they had caught their breath, Bruce shouted, "Now!" They flung the leaf off their heads into the river. Then, as fast as they could, they jumped onto it, which I can't imagine would be very fast for a snail, hey? Ernie was impressed at Bruce's speed and agility and wondered if he did circuit training too. The wild dog stood watching, even more puzzled. "Paddle as fast as you can," shouted Bruce. He had seen the giant dog staring at them and feared that he might pounce on them at any moment. Using their tentacles, both snails paddled as fast as they could in a desperate attempt to escape. "Hola, amigos," came a buzzy voice. "Oh no, you are the fly from the house. Buzz off, I'm busy," panted Ernie. "Oh, your two amigos are cool. I saw you sliding away from dogs. It was quick escape. Nice moves." Ernie couldn't believe it. He thought he had seen the last of the fly when he had escaped from the house. "There is no way you are coming with us," he said in frustration. "You can't stop me, Speedy. I want to come with you. I be Captain Pablo. I lead the boat. Follow me," he buzzed. "What are you doing, Ern? Why aren't you paddling?" shouted Bruce from the front of the leaf, getting fast out of breath because he was doing all the work. Poor Ernie was trying to swat the fly. I just have to do something first," replied Ernie, trying to swat the fly away. Finally, his tentacles hit the target and sent him spinning off towards the dogs. "No! I too young to be dog's breakfast. Ah!" he shouted. The dog, feeling lazy in the warm summer sun, watched curiously as the two snails floated down the river. "Keep paddling!" shouted Bruce, his heart almost pounding out of his chest. Ernie was paddling as fast as his small tentacles could go. The snails didn't dare to look behind them, in case the dog was hot on their trail. But by now he had joined his pack and was enjoying some breakfast and the thought of a long morning nap. It looks like actually the dogs weren't really bothered about the snails anyway, and the snails were just panicking for nothing. But anyway, if I was a snail, I think I would be terrified of a giant dog hovering over me with those big teeth. So I don't blame the snails for being a bit scared. So well done for listening, guys. So did you hear these sentence openers? We had an immediately, and all of a sudden, I think we had a quickly, and then some that weren't quite so obvious, and some short sentences in there, but maybe you've spotted some ones that I haven't mentioned. So send me a text, let me know, send me a message on here, let me know. So your challenge is I want you to write a paragraph similar to that, where they hear the sound of something and they are frightened. So I want you to write just a paragraph or maybe two about two kids maybe walking through the park on the way home from school or way home from playing, and they hear footsteps behind them and they hear rustling in the bush. And then they have this feeling that something is following them, and they begin to get a little bit scared, a bit nervous. And then I would love, because I love happy endings, I love it to be their cute, fluffy dog from home that has followed them, and he jumps out from the bush and wants cuddles. Okay, but the point is, I want you to get that feeling of suspense. So I want you to use exciting sentence openers, short sentences, and then senses. So what can they hear that makes them feel scared? So you don't want to give away what it is yet. So you want to just have noises in the background, the rustling of the bush, the sound of footsteps, a strange sniffing. The other senses you could use is sight. They could see the bush moving, but they can't see what it is. What else? They could see footsteps. Maybe they could see muddy footprints. What about smell? Can they smell something? Dogs can be smelly. So maybe they can smell a strange smell, and they're terrified. So all of these things can create a feeling of suspense until at the end you reveal what it is. So send me your couple of paragraphs of the kids walking home, hearing the footsteps. I would love to read that out. So lastly, one more thing, I just want to say well done to Kelly and her 3 awesome boys, who they won the competition, which I announced on Friday, about guess the olives in the jar. So well done, Kelly. Your 3 boys. I would love to know their names. I know Joey and Archie, but I'm not sure of the third name. So let me know and I can say hi. And just so you know, I will be doing some more competitions coming up soon. So I'm going to have a think this week what else I can do. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and also check out my website. I'm now adding some resources on there, and I'm going to add a link to some free downloads that you can download, and they're just some awesome activities that you can do there to help you with the story writing and some other puzzles and fun stuff. I'll let you know when that's up and running. So have a good day. Enjoy the beautiful sunshine. I'll see you on Thursday. Bye.